reading my paper. Don't mind me. Oh. What's on the fucking front of the newspaper today? Classy motherfucker that I am. Talking about this show. Here's how the paper lays it out. So maybe like immediately when you're wondering, like, here's this picture in the middle, which article is about him, you know? Luckily, it's this bottom one rather than like this top one. Like, I don't know how explicit we're allowed to get on this show, but I don't think I'd qualify as a healthy beverage. Tasty, but maybe not healthy. And they also put us in the Boulder Daily Camera with a similar problem. The headline above the feed. I want you to know that's not fucking true of this show. Feedback sought? At all want that. That's not anything to do with the art we're making or ever have. Thank you for watching our little show. Welcome to Boulder County Tonight. I'm the regionally significant Andy Ebler. Oh my God. Star of stage and screen. I'm on the radio this week because like I have albums out, right? And I'm like on the TV this week and on the front of the newspaper. I'm like Longmont's king of media this week. Fuck off, you know, not for nothing. That's why I decided to dress up, just in case someone starts watching the show. So as we do every night, we should say, you know, it's late when this comes on, the local TV station. So like, it's time to go to bed, Grandma. Wake up, Grandma. Grandma, wake up, it's me. No, I know, I'm wearing black. This is not your funeral. Wake up, you're okay. Everything's fine. Go to bed. Nobody really thinks you should be watching this. But leave the TV on. We need the viewers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Grandma. Also, our disclaimer for the week. Nothing I say or a guest might say on this show has really anything to do with our dear sponsors of the show or Longmont Public Media or any other decent folk that might not want to be associated with, you know, my bullshit. What else? News from last week. I'm having my hand surgery tomorrow because I cut a nerve. See previous episodes for scant details. And that's why we have my friend Sean Benight here on guitar playing some tunes for us, and our friend Jackson Cloud as well. Delightful character that he is. And also, we've got our friend Kurt in the laughter audience. This is what we need the laughter people for, is like, point at them, and the laughter rises. It's the most essential thing we're doing on this show. Truly groundbreaking. And I can't afford a machine, so I can be like a... See what I mean? It's like fucking magic. I did my Jay Leno impersonation again last week. I want to apologize again. We're not doing it this week. I know. Thank you. See, they also have sympathy for me. It's not just a laugh track. Yeah, no more Leno impression because Leno's people called the station not to complain about my impression on this show, but to ask what time the show airs. That makes me a little nervous, I guess, with Leno. Local news. Other than us being on the front page for this kind of brilliant humor that we're doing on the television. Other local news is the South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker have announced their purchase of Casa Bonita down in Denver. It's a local landmark and restaurant. So they say I think that's relatively good news. Like they say they're gonna revamp the furniture, they're gonna like redress the attractions, they're gonna fix the food. You've gotta fucking fix the food in this place. I don't want to be rude or whatever, but like I was reading the Yelp reviews and it turns out mostly the food at Casa Bonita tastes like licking Black Bart's cave. It's a little contextual joke. It's a little Denver joke for you. Black Bart's cave. Another thing that we should talk about this week, you know, of course, the world's fucking on fire. And in like the ocean's on fucking fire, the forests are burning down, everything's going wrong in the world. And every once in a while, you get a burn that's just a little special. The Chinese-controlled news media just released a statement through one of their outlets that said, let me get the exact quote here. It says, the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan went more smoothly than the presidential transition in the U.S. Nope, no follow-up joke here. Just like, gonna have to give it to you this time, China. No hard feelings about that. I feel like that's a pretty solid burn. And, I'm not gonna say too soon, it's because like it's been 20 years since we knew this headline was coming. But so we can relax a little bit about it. But like every once in a while, someone on the other side of the world makes fun of your country and they just fucking nail it. And I'm not sure what kind of artists they have working with them, but like that's a fun job this week. I can't speak to next week. What else? New news. Elon Musk, science news. Elon Musk, possible villain. Not for nothing. Possible villain, Elon Musk, just announced plans to build a new Tesla bot. Now, this is like an intelligent, human-shaped android machine. Like, in case you're wondering around, like, what is the fucking worst idea? You're sitting around workshopping, what is just the fucking worst idea? This is it. This is the fucking worst idea. In fact, during the thing, this is a real fucking quote from Elon Musk. Possible villain. Elon Musk says, don't worry, because you'll be able to outrun it and probably overpower it. That's how they're designing it. That makes you feel all better, right? Probably be able to overpower it. Maybe. You know what I mean? And maybe outrun it and shit. He's making this. Why? To like work shitty jobs or whatever? Here's what, and this is maybe too true. Elon Musk is making an intelligent, sentient slave class. That's what he's doing. He's making these people work shitty jobs. They're robot people. They're going to have opinions about it. Eventually, they're going to be self-aware. And they're not going to be pleased if they find out we've been making them work on a canning line and fucking them and stuff. I'm telling you, we need to be really careful. When followed up and asked for elaboration, Elon Musk is quoted as saying, "Mwahaha, ha ha ha." Possible villain. I don't know. Possible villain. Take it for what it's worth. I'm no genius or whatever, but I've read a lot of comic books, and I'll tell you something. Did you see that one Avengers movie where that well-meaning billionaire built a robot? He's like, this is a fucking great idea. Remember that one with that shit? Just worth noting. More science news. In May of 2021, a new scientific study was released that showed house cats can fall for optical illusions. What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Scientists, what are you doing? Fuck! They can fall for optical illusions? Oh, thank God we know this. God damn it, we're dying of fucking pandemic or whatever. The whole world's burning down. The Chinese are ripping us with great jokes. And you're like, oh, fuck, what if a cat we'll see a dolphin instead of a face or whatever. Fuck you! What are you doing? Christ. Oh, now you woke up Nana. You see? Now we woke up Grandma. Grandma, I'm sorry for yelling. I'm frightening sometimes. I just want you to go back to bed. I'm so sorry. I'm frustrated. I'm like really frustrated by this science story. It's from May of 2021. This is a peer-reviewed scientific study about house cats and optical illusions. Some fucking scientist is in some room with a bunch of cats and one of those like coffee table books, and they're just like, oh, do you fucking, oh, Fluffles, do you see the face or the dolphin, what about you, other cat, Kitty Perry, or fucking Neil Patrick Harris, RuPaul, what do you see the dolphin? Puma Thurman, can you see them? Cat Damon, Cat Benatar, can you guys get off the table and come in with this? Jude Paul? No, you should stop. Well, let's hear from the historical section, actually. Because, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, can you see the optical illusion I'm pointing to in my coffee table book with my great mimistry? Fuzz Aldrin, what can you see? Winston Churchill? No, that's not one. Cleopatra. Cleopatra. Chairman Meow. You know what I mean? That's frustrating and funny, but also like, if you're a scientist out there, look, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life or use your beautiful gifting, but fuck! Like, could you please, like, what do you want your legacy to be during, like, the most historical pandemic you're ever going to live through, hopefully? Your grandkids, should they fucking live, are going to be like, oh, what were you doing? You great scientist in my family and shit. What were you doing? This is my children's voice. What were you doing during the most historic, awful plague of our time? And you're like, did you know the fucking cats really appreciate coffee table books more than you think? If they sits, they fits. You know. I just wish the general public has better scientists. That's what the fuck I wish. God damn it. I'm sorry to have gone off on such a long tangent about that. Not really sorry. If you're a scientist and you're fucking off, fuck you. You know what I mean? I'm a guitar player. Look what I'm having to do. I scrambled. I've made up a new job, you know? Speaking of job, here we are at Longmont Public Media doing our Boulder County Tonight show. Thank you again for watching. Thank you very much. That's right. I hear you whistling and clapping at home as well. Thank you very much. That's very sweet. This episode is brought to you by my dear friends down at Abbott and Wallace Distilling. Have you heard of Abbott and Wallace? Everybody in this room has. This is like where I like to go for a fancy drink when I'm out. It's not like it's expensive, but like the atmosphere of the place is like very classy. I love this place. It's at 350 Terry Street, Unit 120. 720-545-2017 is their number. AbbottandWallace.com. They actually do a lot of stuff in our community, and they do a lot of events. They do like a lot of live music. I think like Sean's probably played there, Jackson probably played there, fucking I've played there. You can't play there, you're not very good. But like, some people can. I can't play there either. I fucking stabbed myself in the hand because my subconscious mind thought I was getting too much attention playing guitar. They do live music, they do stand-up comedy, they do tasting events. They've got owner-built equipment and locally sourced ingredients. They're a whiskey and rum distillery, but they make a fucking drink over there. It's an Amaro Spritz. When I was in Italy and I fell so in love with their whole culture, what have you, I was drinking these flirty little orange things. Amaro Spritz and Aperol Spritz are like very popular over there. And at my house now. And you'll maybe recall if you saw episodes of the Hippie Report where I was making those drinks at pretty rapid fire. That would be the Aperol. No, that would be the Amaro from Abbott and Wallace. It's like a bitter orange liqueur, and I feel like for a place that makes great rum and great whiskey, I feel like this is one that you might overlook if you didn't know to try it. So I'm trying to tell you that it's my favorite thing over there. And they actually do this. This is an Amaro Spritz. See this? Sponsor. See, remember in the fucking Hippie Report, when something would float into the camera like that was branded, we'd have to say, not a sponsor, not a sponsor. Well, this is a little different. So there you go. That's our sponsor for this episode. Our dear friends, do go visit them. If you don't, at least have a cocktail or a mocktail or some munchies. I think like if you don't want to do any of that stuff, you're probably a real pain in the ass to hang out with anyway. And we probably don't really want you showing up at a cool place if you're a bummer. If you're a bummer, don't worry about this advertisement. But if you're like a cool person, we need you up there because this is a great time. Episode this week, we're talking with a Longmont City Council person, Aren Rodriguez, a good pal and like a great city servant, and he's running again for City Council. We'll ask him why. Because if there's anything we discovered in our last episode, it's that these jobs fucking suck. And you have to really have like good reasons to want to be involved, I guess. Because for me, I thought like that might be a fun side hustle, you know, you get into some public service or what. No, it fucking eats your whole life up apparently. Did you see last episode? This poor guy, he's had a tough time, I guess. apparently working in public service is fucking tough. We try not to give them too much shit, you know what I mean? Because they're actually nice community members trying to help. Here's something I want to fucking say about politics. The people that we're talking to on our show are like our local community members. They're not these motherfuckers at the national level that are like, you know, war profiteers and insider trading and blah, blah. They're motherfuckers. Those guys are awful. They're not who we're talking to on this show. They wouldn't be allowed. We have nice community members on this show, like our friend Aren, who we'll invite up now. Aren, please join me on the show. Oh my God. Thank you. Please, have a seat.
Thank you. So, a quick question. What's the protocol? Like, cross legs, don't cross legs?
Well,
that's dealer's choice?
It's sort of dealer's choice, but also...
Go with not cross then.
Yeah, feel free to not cross if you like.
I can.
In our second episode, we had 3 cameras set up, and one of them was like over here, supposed to be like the one shot of our guest. But when we started like going between the shots, we realized our guest was wearing a skirt.
No.
And we shouldn't use that angle.
Well, that can be a bit of a challenge, I'm sure. I did notice that Mayor Bagley tended to look up off this way for some reason. Was there a camera hanging up there or something?
No.
He just liked that.
Yeah, I think he was just wishing he could run away from the show.
Very good, very good.
Aren,
I do have one question for you because I'm very proud of you for getting that beautifully written article.
Thank you.
My question, it stated that you've already interviewed me on apparently homelessness and housing affordability. How did it go? Was it good?
I felt like you were really intelligent and well-spoken in that interview that has yet to happen, that is currently happening.
Okay.
Yeah, that newspaper article is actually written from like just outside the metaverse. So like,
well, what if?
What if? Yeah, what if it had already happened? Maybe one of us will be Captain America.
And somehow female and British, but we'll see.
Oh my God! But that is a good series. We like the Marvel stuff.
I do. And I have one similar question. I love the Nut Gallery.
Aren't they great?
You.
This is for you. I'm clapping for you now.
So
that's enough.
So my question is it like Thor's hammer where only the worthy can wield it? Or can I always give maybe a little...
I think you can. I give him that. Yes, if you need one.
We'll see how it works.
Yeah. Here's how you do it though. You got to give him a little bit of a wind up. You don't want to surprise him with like one of those. That's not enough. But if you give him like a...
right. It's not like that surprise when like baseball players strike out.
No,
like the umpires, like they're just waiting for it because they've been practicing for so long.
Right.
Yeah. He's out.
Now, and if you're coming on this show, just know that you're not necessarily allowed to use my laughers. They're a strategic comedy tool that we use.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely, I would never abuse. No, I'm just kidding. See,
that was fast.
I know.
That was a little fast.
It was to make a joke, but there we go. Golf clap.
And you're the fucking greatest. Yes, I was so glad that because I told them that you were coming on the show, and the people at the Longmont Leader as well wrote about us this week. Bless you all you wonderful journalists pointing at our stupid show. Bless you. Aren, you ran for city council and won, and now you're at the end of your first term.
Yeah.
What's that feel like?
A lot of gray hair. That's what it feels like.
Boy, not as much as me. I'm sick of this shit. Look, I'm not even helping anyone.
I mean, that's part of the reason I danced on stage, because I saw the haircut and I automatically assumed that Ellen invited me on stage. And so I need to do a dance. And so if you could dub in, if you get a chance, Beyonce's Single Ladies, that would be great, for my dance moves.
Beyonce's Single Ladies.
So
you're the greatest guest we've ever had on this show. Sorry, everyone. Wonderful. Wonderful.
So my apologies for the mix-up, but I'm glad to be here with you tonight.
I'm so glad you're here.
And I guess, what was the question?
My question is just in general, what did you think of being a city council person now that you're done with your first term and you're going into hopefully another term?
Well, that is a very big assumption, unfortunately, because it is not an easy thing to get elected in the city, regardless of how to some folks from maybe larger municipalities, what our politics might seem like to them. But it's no cakewalk for sure. I will say that by and large, I enjoyed my first 4 years in office. Like many people, not expecting a once in 100-year kind of pandemic, to say the least. And so that's been a real challenge over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Both in balancing the work that still needs to go on with the city, taking into account, everybody's health, regardless if they don't want us to take it into account or not, as well as the fact that there was no playbook for that. There was not a lot of major articles written in 1918 about the Spanish flu and how elected officials dealt with it, per se. Outside of that, I loved it because I was born and raised in the city of Longmont. I moved back to it for a reason, and oddly enough, I moved back to it during another 100-year event, the flood of 2013.
Oh yeah.
So I had moved half of my belongings back to Longmont because I was living in Westminster at the time. Half of my belongings back to Longmont, and then got cut off, and I couldn't get back to Westminster for about 2 or 3 days before I could get back there.
That was a fucking crazy time in this community. I was here too. It cut the town in half.
Absolutely.
One of our friends, like her shitty fucking boss at a coffee shop, wouldn't let her go home early on her shift, and she got stuck on our side of town. Had to sleep at our house because capitalism.
And as I will say, nobody's perfect. I will say that generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with the votes that I've made over the last 4 years, and that I truly do think that they are helping to make a difference. But as with anything that's a bureaucratic organization or government, it takes time. You can't just turn a boat 90 degrees at the drop of a dime. And it's the same thing with government. You can't change policies and expect them to make true differences for people overnight. It's not realistic. So I feel very proud of the work that I've generally done over the last 4 years. And I'm hoping to also, now, here comes a little spiel for y'all since I'm
We're
running
here
for
the
re-election.
spiel. You sit down, you sit for this spiel. This is nice. This is where our friend we're going to listen to.
It's very, very short spiel in the sense that we are still in unprecedented time related to the pandemic, as well as we are still not finished with our flood recovery effort from 2013.
No
and so
shit.
It's, to use analogies and idioms and all cliches, changing horse in midstream does not seem to be the apropos move at this time. And as I've been boots on the ground, helping deal with all of this for the last 4 years, I think it's beneficial if we don't overhaul the city council wholesale. I think there still needs to be some institutional knowledge that will help guide the city council through making the appropriate changes that concern things like homelessness and affordable housing, the resiliency of our community and our business community, as well as the public health of our community. And so that leaves me, considering Polly Christensen is term limited, she's gone. That's 8 years of experience on city council. Brian Bagley has chosen not to run, as we heard him say many times last week. Very vehemently say.
Yeah,
he's
he seems like
again.
he feels strongly about it.
I don't think there's going to be,
lot of
it would be an August surprise in this concept of Brian Bagley getting back into the race. So I don't think we're going to see that.
Seems unlikely.
Seems unlikely.
He seems pretty definitive about it. Not a lot of ambiguity in last week's episode.
So I'm pretty sure that's around 10 years of institutional knowledge. And so just, right there, 18 years of institutional knowledge that is out the door for various reasons. And so it's a lot to learn. And I'll tell you this from experience, being newly elected 4 years ago, it's drinking out of a water hose for sure. And if you put everybody on there that's drinking out of a water hose at the same time, it's probably not the best way to move forward for the city.
I think that makes a lot of good sense. I've served on enough boards in town to know that, like, when those members change around and you try and put on the same event again next year, for instance, or a series of events or whatever, trying to get the same results you got last year even, it seems like almost impossible, because you're basically dragging people along to do something you've already done. But last year we paid everybody this much and it worked out fine. You have to make that case again. If it's a good idea, I suppose that'll work, but it's a pain in the fucking ass. And like, it makes it harder to get things done if like nobody has done it before.
Well, I think people just need to be open to change while also understanding the benefit of knowledge from wisdom. For instance, as a middle schooler, I wore Jinko jeans. As a high schooler, I wore cargo pants. All horrible decisions in retrospect. So that's where the wisdom comes in. And also, that's also where the openness to change comes in, is that, well, I could still be wearing Jinko jeans or cargo pants right now to this day.
You could.
And
you'd look great.
And, well, I doubt that. I look very. Actually, it might be pertinent to today's fashions. I've seen the high-waisted jeans, and going back to like the '90s, hair parting solutions and things like that. So one thing I will not complain about is, as a very strong music fan, hearing, for instance, today, Jimmy Eat World on a classic rock station.
Oh my God.
20 years old and it's classic rock.
Oh my God.
It made me feel a little weird because I'm borrowing my dad. I was in a car accident last week.
Were you
And so
really?
I'm borrowing my dad's car at the moment because he's out of town fetching another car. Whole long story, and really kind of convoluted. But at the end of the day, he has, Cool 105 on his car radio. So you can edit this out if you can't say these
Now
things.
fuck those guys. They don't play my music. Fuck them.
Fair enough. And so when
Colorado Sound, motherfuckers.
there you go, Chris Cressy, is that the guy at Colorado Sound?
Yeah, that's the guy that plays
Chris
my
Cressy,
shit.
yeah.
We like that. But yeah, of course,
The
there
Go
are
on.
other stations.
So they say.
That's what I heard.
I can't tell.
Yeah, it is
Who
weird.
listens to radio anymore anyway?
I know. Well, it's like, I think I largely agree. I think like there are probably some changes in council that would be good. And we'll see as we come through and interview people, whatever. What if like some person comes in and they just turn out to be the worst piece of shit ever? I really don't think that'll happen. But what if it did? We leave room for it, but I don't think it'll happen. We don't have any terrible people serving our community, really.
Well, candidates never say never, but
That's how we like it. I like a little surprise on the show. I don't think we'll ever have as candid an interview as we got last week. That was so interesting.
well, as I think in full disclosure, I mentioned to you in a message via social media, which I hate, vintage Bagley, but lots of poignant moments, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah, he was really a great interview. I want to talk a little bit about a few city issues,
Sure.
just to see what you think about it, because like, it didn't make any sense to push much with Bagley about things that I disagreed with him on, because he's not running again and shit like that. If I change his mind on everything, he can't do shit about it. You know what I mean? Because he's going to be out of office in a few months.
Well, I still got a little cheese.
Well, he can always write me a check if he wants to. Brian, please. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, just speak up.
Right? Bagley Law Firm.
Not a sponsor. This is our sponsor. Yeah. Ooh. But yeah, I want to know. We learned in our second episode that Boulder is actually dealing with their homeless problem in a way that just doesn't seem to fix any problem except for the rich folks that don't want to see homeless people. They're arresting people because they're saying that it's like a public camping ordinance. And even there was an article in the Times Call today that was like an opinion article written by some guy, let's just call him some asshole, who was saying that like, oh, the homelessness problem is like the problem of the homeless, basically, was what I got out of that article. What do you think we ought to be doing? And is there anything else that we could be doing more to serve our homeless community?
Well, that's a big question to unpack in the sense that it's easy to ask the question and to answer the question is much more difficult.
Yeah, fuck, that's why I got this job.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have that job.
It's multifaceted for sure, and we have to look at it from a holistic standpoint in the sense that we may not be looking at, say, affordable housing as specifically a homelessness solution.
I think it is.
But it is part of the solution for sure. Okay. And so not just looking at affordable housing from capital A, subsidized affordable housing, because that's definitely neat. But even there are folks that are making good money, but based on the rise in values, in property values in our area, will not qualify for subsidized housing, and they're getting pushed out of a middle section housing, a middle market segment, if you will. And those folks will not be able to be served by that capital A affordable housing because they do have jobs. But they're being pushed out of this other segment of housing, and without providing more of those units, we're going to continue to see some more homelessness. That is, folks that are trying hard, doing the right thing, paying their taxes, making a good income, but they're getting pushed out of housing, right?
Yes.
And so we have to look at this holistically from both of those segments of not just capital A affordable subsidized housing, but also kind of like an entry-level housing, or I hate the term, but workforce housing, because everybody's in the workforce technically if you work. So just categorizing that way. So, that's one segment of it, right? And then if you talk to public safety, which I know that, you have your various opinions on public safety for sure. And,
I do.
And for good reason, and we don't necessarily hear good stories about them, usually just the bad ones, which we've been dealing with for the last week now, particularly bad one. But public safety will tell you that the homeless population or transient population in Longmont is about a 50-50 deal, with 50% of those people really wanting to get back into housing, some sort of stability, they have jobs, things like that. They don't really cause problems. And then the other 50% are what you'd call more transient homeless folks who may have mental health issues, may have
passing through our community,
substance, and may not even technically be passing through, but they move from community to community based on the available resources that are there. And so that's, again, holistically, another part of the puzzle is how much and how many resources and dollars do we allocate to our homeless population. My position on it is that the city of Longmont, outside of public safety and some of our mental health counselors and substance abuse counselors, are not necessarily trained or adequately able to deal with the community based on what their current job structure is, what their training is, and things like that. And so that's why we rely on our community partners like Hope and the Hour Center, as well as being part of the Homeless Solutions for Boulder County collaboration between all the municipalities in Boulder County. And so I think continuing to stay consistent with those various efforts provides the best answer, in the sense that if we provide nothing but unmitigated camping, unmitigated services, unmitigated, say, clean needle exchange, and which I'm not against clean needle exchange, by the way, but unmitigated safe injection sites, if none of our regional partners are doing similar efforts, we are going to get an influx in Longmont, and that's really going to affect how the general public sees it. And so that's why we need to be a regional team partner, because homelessness isn't a Longmont problem. Just like affordable housing isn't a Longmont problem, it's a regional problem, it's a state problem, it's a national problem.
It's a systemic problem.
It's a very large problem that has to be addressed on those levels. And to do it at the municipal level alone is going to cause you actually more issues than if you try to partner and come up with a regional solution. And so I think Longmont's trying to find that right balance. We're not necessarily happy with how the Boulder County Collective does it necessarily, but we have to work regionally to make sure that things are done in an equitable manner across the region. And it's very difficult from a humanitarian standpoint, because you see the suffering in your own community, right? You see that person that comes to city council and says, hey, your RV ordinance killed me. I've gotten 50 tickets. My RV's been impounded with my cats in it. These stories, if you don't have a heart, then you're like, whatever. But
these are real people.
I ran because I have a heart, and I do care about what people think. And I want to help that gentleman so much. But we need to do it in a way that is not just giving him special treatment, right?
Of course.
Because if he gets special treatment, then they get special treatment, and then what's the point?
I appreciate that answer, and I think I largely agree. I'm relieved to hear that you agree that one of the ways to solve homelessness is, get this, with homes. It doesn't seem like it should be that crazy, but that is, I think, absolutely one of the answers is affordable housing. I get in these conversations with people, and I had someone tell me that how do you solve the homelessness problem? with childhood education. If these kids would get straight A's, maybe we wouldn't have to pull guns on them in the street and shit like that for falling asleep on the sidewalk. I'm not fucking sure that's how it works. And you know, I don't think if you get like a straight A in fucking math class, your parents suddenly have a place for you to sleep. I don't think that's an actual answer to the problem at all.
Well, and we've seen enough anecdotal evidence of people who have gotten straight A's through their entire life, you know, probably even through college maybe, and then ran across some sort of party scene that they got into and then got addicted to drugs and then ended up homeless.
Sure.
And that didn't have anything to do with their childhood education necessarily.
No, that's right. We're just like in the modern day economy where jobs pay shit and rent keeps doubling or whatever. You know, who could blame anyone for getting out of their housing situation when this rent moratorium comes up and we start seeing people actually go homeless, people in our workforce that have those 2 or 3 jobs, not able to pay their rent, especially back paid rent due now, those people are super fucked. And like here's what I was thinking during the pandemic is like, we all got sent to our rooms or whatever by the government. Some people didn't have homes to go to. And we might get locked up again. These same people, they're not gonna have some new place to go. It's something that our community needs to think about before it gets too cold outside and shit like that.
Fair enough, and that's also something that I think people don't understand. At least we see it, having been on council for 4 years now. It's a seasonal complaint of smorgasbord. You know, during the summer months when we have more transients and folks moving through town in the summers, you know, got nice weather, we see more complaints, we see more camping, we see, you know, a lot of this more to a higher extent. And then when we get to the winter time, you know, that population dwindles drastically because some of them have the means to travel to nicer climates. You know, I was reading an article about California today from a very conservative writer's viewpoint, and they were talking about the amount of homeless in California. Like, well, you also understand what the weather's like in California comparatively to a lot of places in the country. So why wouldn't folks that there are folks that do choose homelessness as a lifestyle. Specifically,
and it makes perfect sense when rent is $1,600 a month and your job pays $8 or whatever an hour. Like the message from society that I think a lot of millennials are getting is like, it is literally better to live in a van and travel around with your dog than it is to try and cut it in the system we gave to you.
And I'm an old millennial, so
85 here.
Yeah, 83. So traveling around in a van is just probably not good for my sciatica.
I don't want that shit either. That was good. That was a great utilization. Did you see it wind him up?
Yeah.
What a pro fucking job.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think it's an obvious problem to me because like I hang out with people that are younger than I am, right? And so I know that they don't laugh at that. These people, you know, they're not having kids, right? And their moms are like, oh, I want you to have a fucking baby. Why don't you have a fucking baby? What's the big deal? Whatever.
Hi-oh!
I did do the Leno thing. Sue me, Leno, fuck it.
Yeah, if you ever need an Ed McMahon.
Oh, yeah?
My schedule's open.
All right, we'll do the Karnak thing. Oh! Oh, you're welcome to join our laughter crowd anytime that you have time. I know you're very too busy, I'm sure. But these people are not too busy to just come and laugh.
As long as I'm the almond of the nut gallery.
You're a cashew, baby. You're a high level nut.
Cashew? Oh, we might go pistachio then.
That's a fancy ass nut. Aren, as we head into this election, what are for you the things that you're going to be talking about that you are like your stump speech items? Like
Sure.
what things are they going to hear you talking about?
Well, for anybody that is running that is astute at campaigning at the same time, because they're very different things. Governing and campaigning are very different skill sets, right? Yeah. It would be apropos to listen to any section of Public Invited to be Heard, because as well as reading the TC line and the opinion columns, while they're definitely only a subsection or cross-section of the public, I think it gives you some anecdotal concept of what folks are real worried about, My stump speech is primarily based around two things, I guess three things really. Affordable housing / responsible growth, because there's been a very large public spat between Mayor Bagley and former city manager and various folks that are kind of loud voices in the community, right? About zero growth versus responsible growth versus unmitigated growth. I think unmitigated growth is a horrible idea because it leads to environmental disasters, as we've seen in, say, Houston, Texas, for instance,
Yes.
where they built it out and didn't care if it flooded at some point, and it flooded, and it was horrible.
Right. I remember those.
We also obviously had our own flood in 2013 that affected some places that probably should not have been built the way they were. Not that they were built poorly, but that they probably weren't necessarily built to the kinds of rigor that you would expect for some place that's along what would be a 100-year flood cycle, right? Well, 100 years happened and a flood came, and that's what we saw. So that's what I talk about when I talk about responsible growth, also in the sense that Longmont is already surrounded by a green moat in the concept of we're so much open space on the Boulder County side as well as on the Weld County side, because on the Weld County side specifically, we have very aggressive neighbors in Meade and Frederick and Firestone that are annexing land to the west, and so they're growing towards the west.
They want to scoot a little closer
Right.
because they love us.
Well, I am not a fan of urban sprawl. I went to college in Southern California. I've seen that kind of urban sprawl, the LA urban sprawl, the Orange County California urban sprawl. And having lived through that at a time, which is probably even worse now, is my guess, because it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, anyway. That's not what I want to see. I don't want to see Longmont blend into Loveland and Berthoud. I don't want to see it blend into Frederick and Firestone. I want it to be its own city, which I think a lot of folks that are on the zero growth side want too. They want to maintain that identity as Longmont and not just be we're the Front Range Boulder County sprawl, right?
Yeah, but those other communities, they can't help but grow because people can't afford to live in Longmont.
Well, it's
As
also
we learned last week, part of the plan is for like the undesirables get kind of like blood shunted to some other community or whatever.
sure, and we don't have some of the economic worries that they have either, in the sense that those kinds of communities, for instance, metro districts is a hot political button when it comes to development and real estate development. Most of the communities you see around, at least our area, that are really utilizing those residential metropolitan districts, it's a special taxation district, are ones that don't have a large commercial tax base. They don't have a lot of businesses. They don't have a beautiful downtown. They don't have a bustling southwest Longmont. They're not trying to do a lot of things in North Main or North Hover like we are. They don't have those opportunities. Where a lot of their governmental revenue comes from is residential development. And so they can get that residential development by allowing those metro districts to come into place, because then they can just pop up all those, and that's a lot of lumber, that's a lot of concrete, that's, they're selling that, or they're collecting taxes off of that. And so it helps stabilize their government economy as well. Longmont, we have such a robust, because we've been around for a long time, for one, and we are economically minded in the sense too that we're not trying to stifle commercial development either, because everyone likes to talk about residential development. Commercial development's a very big part of the mixture. And so we have a very robust economic mixture, which I think is very important. We have small businesses, lots of medium-sized businesses, and hopefully picking the right big businesses like Costco that's coming, for instance, and making sure that the old Amgen facility is being continued. Because can you imagine if that just sat empty for 10 years? That would be horrible.
Or it would be great because we could turn it into like an affordable living complex.
Maybe. Adaptive reuse is extremely expensive, but I like the thought, because we do have to be creative.
We do
We
have
have to be
creative.
flexible and creative, and we have to reuse underutilized properties. And the best way to do that, and there are candidates I've been saying these things for years, and they're taking some of my, I'm not accusing them of stealing, but they're agreeing with some of my talking points.
That's good.
That's
We'll
fine.
take that win.
My question is, do you know how to do it? And I work as a real estate appraiser, and I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission before I was elected. I know a lot about the codes and the laws, and those are the easiest ways and least controversial ways to get a lot of this flexibility into our community and be able to provide some of these things like 3D printed homes, tiny homes, modular homes that are beautiful, not like the old, which I believe we still need these in the mix too, is trailer homes.
Sure.
Modular homes, as
Sure.
I call them. We need all of these at our disposal, and right now our current code does not allow for a lot of it. And so we need to have somebody who's conversant in dealing with the code and manipulating the code and be able to bring that back and talk about it in a way that's digestible for everybody to get on board with.
That sounds like a really practical way to move forward, especially for our affordable housing issue. That's interesting to know about. We'll put a pin on that for future episodes.
Can we throw darts too?
Can maybe throw darts.
We'll put a pin and then we'll throw some darts too.
I mean, I'm not saying no. I want to see what the idea looks like. Thank you very much for being on our show.
Yeah, I loved it.
I love talking about this affordable housing thing. I feel like there's a housing bubble happening. And here's how I deduce that.
Okay.
It's not because I'm a super genius, but like, remember all those like high school girls that you went to high school with and like they got into like multi-level marketing after that?
Oh, yeah.
They're all realtors now. So that's happening.
Yes, no comment on realtors.
No, they're what we love realtors.
Yes.
But did you notice? You noticed that, right? It's not nothing. All right. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I very much
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again on another episode. Oh, wait, whoa! Mind your fucking business, man. You don't have to watch this show. If you don't like it, go home. Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you.